The team really discussed this question a lot about have we hit peak car? And we have answered the question with some trends and information showing the change that we're seeing in VMT and this vehicle miles traveled. And this isn't just occurring on a national scale, it's actually happening in your region. We're seeing a decline in driving alone and an increased desire to find other forms and other ways to get around. And some of those trends we'll go through just quickly here. The fluctuating fuel prices we're all experiencing. Health and environmental concerns are increasing, not just about active transportation, but air quality and climate. The opportunity to use technology, we're seeing millennials use technology and prefer to use technology rather than jump in a car and visit friends. We have an aging population, we're all experiencing that. There's a rising unmet maintenance need. The American Society of Civil Engineers is estimating a $2.2 trillion backlog in maintenance in the United States infrastructure costs. We have more urbanization and we're seeing more congestion, and that's also a deterrent. Some other important trends I'd like to mention. I alluded to the millennials, but it's a significant amount of that age category that's choosing not to get driver's licenses, not to buy cars, not to pursue that route. We're also seeing, a trend reversal in elementary and middle school students, increasingly wanting to walk and bike to school, wanting to find different ways to get around. On the commuting side, I like to point out that, Ed shared with you how many commute trips you have, 70,000 commuting trips. Well, think of that in terms of this graphic. That is that red portion you see. That there's 3 times that in other kinds of trips taking place during the AM and PM peak hours. So if you're wondering why you're stuck in congestion when you're commuting either to work or from work, it could be all these other trips that are being taken. And half of those are less than 3 miles long, but 80% are being made by car. So those are the real opportunity that we'd like to talk with you about shifting and some things that we can target that we haven't traditionally done since we've been spending a lot of time talking about commuting. From the New York Times recently, this information about walkable urban neighborhoods, and this should be the music to the ears of folks in Pacific Beach and Mission Beach. These locations near urban centers that are becoming more walkable are also seeing an increase in land values. So what we're saying now is in a developed country, it's not a place where the poor have cars, it's a place where the rich use public transit. And it's about breaking down this traditional cycle of accommodating sprawl and sprawling development with expensive transportation options and beginning to change that cycle to a pattern of affordability and an evolution of the system that won't happen overnight. It's a long-term change. And what we were hearing from you all in our conversations with the community, you all want walkable, bikeable community. You want more of it. You have a great setting. You have a lot of people out there walking and biking. You want to make it safer. You'd like to see less traffic congestion and better travel options. And that's what people are talking about all across America. We heard about barriers to this. We heard that you have wide and fast streets. You have a lot of traffic that's traveling through your community. Your community streets are sometimes thoroughfares. And crime is a deterrent to walking. We heard about safety for students walking to school. We heard there isn't enough parking, there's a parking problem. We heard bus services have been cut back and are infrequent, not frequent enough, and that there's a strong car culture here. So Steve talked about the vision, and when we all, over the course of the last few days working with you all, it's clear that you all have a great vision, a long-term vision, and you heard from Steve that you should keep an open mind and think about the future, seeing the past, and I totally agree. What I would like to encourage you to do is start today and also think about those immediate, low-cost, high-value solutions, steps you can take right now, tomorrow, when you walk out this door today. And especially in light of the funding crisis in transportation, we're facing this maintenance backlog I mentioned, and all the trends we're seeing. I think the time is right to think creatively and be innovative and work as a community in transportation. So some immediate steps that I identified in our discussions with you all and with the team. Improve conditions for biking is clearly on your minds. Engage the community in that. Put pedestrians first. Apply both transportation incentives and disincentives simultaneously, meaning the parking management strategies and all the good things you have going on coming down the pipeline with bike share and your car share services, and stoke that bicycle economy that you have here. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And one thing I'd like to encourage you to do is consider some specific greenways, and greenways are emerging in the Pacific Northwest all over the place, and they're really getting a lot of popularity and a lot of resources combining to make these things happen. And it was pretty quickly evident that you had a couple just ripe for the signage. Missouri, Oliver Street, and playing off of the proximity to Garnett and north-south Cass. And the reason we looked at these is they come all the way through and connect, and they go as far, Oliver connects with your Rose Creek Trail. And it's this connectivity as opposed to sort of circular recreational riding that we're thinking about for cyclists. So with Oliver, you have a small improvement to make, maybe a mid-block crossing to get across to the easement, and it gets you through to a nice connection to the beach. On Garnett, pointing out that location that Steve talked about with the roundabout, that is slated. We heard from you all the interest in making that a pedestrian, a walkable, livable, bikeable corridor. But you run into a barrier there. And this idea that Steve talked about, turning your back door into your front door with transit-oriented development and a welcome feature, is really important. And this zone in between where your transit stop will be and where your pedestrian corridor, your walkable corridor is intended, is an important discussion. So this neighborhood greenway concept, these are residential, low traffic, low speed corridors where pedestrians and bicyclists are given priority. And Tom and I had an opportunity to test out Oliver, I said, when we took a jog on Thursday, and we're definitely viewed as, you know, a neighbor in the community. Cars give you priority. They look at you in the eye and slow down around you and look out for you, and it's a great feeling. Just some examples of these greenways that were popping up in Seattle and Portland and how they're treating them. And in Portland, folks got out bicycle parts and placed them to let people know they were on those greenways. And using these greenways to get your community out and about, taking the opportunity to create their own roundabout, their own traffic circle in the community, and let people know this is our greenway. Incorporating those stormwater features, making it fun. It's odd to hear traffic professionals talk about fun. I know. So focus on this end of the spectrum right away, tomorrow, immediately, more, striping, signage, simple things that can be incorporated into your CIP projects that are underway, even if they're not typically participating. And any little few dollars that you can cobble together can really go a long way in some of these kinds of improvements. Buffered bike lanes, bike boxes, those protected bike lanes with the candlesticks, very inexpensive and quite a different feeling to ride on those. Share lane markings can go on those neighborhood greenways right away. And taking one more step forward is a green bike lane, or yet further, the cycle tracks that we're installing. And I got out and took that picture on the right for you just before I left home in the Seattle area. Looking forward to going back there. So, where these neighborhood greenways cross busy arterials, and they will, with Mission and other corridors that run north-south, even Cass right now, it may be important to signalize for cyclists to give them a priority when they do come to that intersection. And it also channelizes these people. One thing we heard in the community conversation was we have bicyclists and pedestrians crossing at every intersection and you don't know where to expect them to pop out. Well, if you channel them to these few major, these greenways, motorists will learn to expect they're there. There'll be better signage. They'll know where to go, even if they're from out of town. And other crossing treatments that are, pedestrian actuated that don't always stop cars are a great way to keep traffic flowing. Accommodations, simple accommodations, low-cost features. Bike station is a really important feature. As your bicycling population grows, they need somewhere to go. If they have a flat tire, they need some repairs, or they want to stow some bags, or they maybe need to buy some food or a cup of coffee and maybe store a bike. Just simple maintenance things that can go fit in with other projects, couple on to other projects, become attractive to public-private partnerships. And wayfinding signage, consistent messaging. I was really impressed arriving in downtown San Diego to see the transit store and see that distinct signage, it very clear, tells you exactly where to go. I'd love to see that, messaging throughout the community in a consistent way. Prioritizing pedestrians using some consistent design principles, just confining high-speed roadways to the edge of the urban areas, limiting the size of those streets, talking about road diets. Those are very simple, can be low cost and some of these temporary installments even. I want to just quickly talk a little bit more about walk score. We heard a little bit about that at the beginning of our discussion. In the Seattle area, two neighborhoods that I'm very familiar with, you can see the gridded streets of Queen Anne versus the more circuitous, disconnected streets of North Beach, and how that's reflected in their walk score and what it means for their land values. And right now, Pacific Beach, Mission Beach, much more like the Queen Anne with the gridded streets, such a great foundation to do so much more with. And looking at your walk scores, you see a range from about 70 to the mid-50s. And just to give you some comparison opportunities with some great walkable places and how much they've been able to do with so many more people, and yet when you arrive there, you really feel like it's a pedestrian scale walkable place. And they've made a lot of trade-offs with parking, and it's just been an evolution. It's a trade about people for cars. And some stats on these walk scores, research is showing that just 1 point in walk score can mean $500 to $3,000 increase in home value. So it's really paying off. These walkable, livable communities are also where the money is. 80% of residents regularly walk and run errands when retail and services are a fifth of a mile or less from their homes in these walkable places. But the key is that walkability. And another really important thing about creating walkable communities is this opportunity to cut down on greenhouse gas emissions that we're all thinking a lot about lately. And simple fixes, small solutions. I love this slide because, how do we make it accessible? Well, it's a simple retrofit. Incentives and disincentives. Parking management is so important, even starting with a small pilot just to see how it goes. In my community, we have 45 minutes of free parking, and then you pay after that, and it's like $2 an hour. But just to understand that concept of parking management. And at the same time providing the incentives. And it's a slow evolution, and you may not think of these kinds of strategies as parking management. This is what they call a parklet. It's a space that's given over to the retail establishment to create additional seating, and it's also a parking management tool. So lastly, just want to mention stoking that bicycle economy in these short-term solutions. You've got a great bike economy here. Bike delivery services, we're seeing in the Pacific Northwest that bicycling is about $1.5 billion contribution to Washington state economy, and it's growing in Oregon area too, and I'm sure it is in California. More and more bike tours, more and more people traveling with bikes expecting accommodations. So on the longer range opportunities, just quickly to talk about the concepts around some of those major intersections and changing that front door roundabouts. And I know you've seen some recent successes with the La Jolla to the north. We got a chance to tour those, and they're beautiful. It's that balancing the need for freeways and tourism, transportation with your local access and your vibrant community that you really want to see. And it's an opportunity, and there's a lot of options. And just a quick observation, trying to see what ways we might deal with some of these intersections that are really a challenge for the community and maybe confusing to travelers and really not appearing as a front door. Just some thoughts, some concepts. This is Balboa and Grand and the concept of roundabout. It's a compact, multi-lane urban roundabout. And, some additional work options could be looked at there. Another idea that we played with is regridding, and this is Balboa and Grand. And these two intersections I know are PED priorities in your pedestrian master plans. You've seen a lot of serious and fatal collisions in these areas. Regridding distributes the travel. If there's a breakdown, it doesn't bog down the system. There's alternative routes, and we know how well the grid works in other parts of the community. So median crossing treatments, these are also much more expensive, and encourage you to continue to pursue those, and just reminders and messages in every corner. I love this Chicago treatment. It's all over the place, and if you're a texter, you might see it and think, oh yeah, I'm about ready to step into that danger zone. And just to prove that some traffic professionals do have a sense of humor, I threw this in. Billings-Ville new pedestrian monkey bars not only reduce accidents, but also whip people into great shape. No, this is not the active transportation we hope for. But, the message I think I want to leave our discussion with is that public investments in improving conditions for biking and walking present you with an opportunity to improve individual health, community health, and the health of the environment. So they're just an all-around great opportunity for you.